Hi everybody, what's up and welcome back. If you're new here, I'm Liz. I'm your host here on Crime Time, Creating Crime Time, whatever the hell you want to call it. And today's case, we're going to be talking about the murder of Nubia Barahona, or Nubia Dr. Barahona. She was about 10 years old at the time of her murder. So she was she had a twin. So her and her twin brother Victor were born on May 26th of 2000 to Sandra Doctor. She had a history with drug and alcohol use. Her and their mother, so Sandra, she had also had four children prior to the twins, Victor and Nubia, and all of whom had been taken by DCF, or the Department of Children and Families. Nubia was born with congenital adrenal hyperplasia, which meant that her body couldn't take two key hormones. One that helps the body retain salt, and the other one is cortisol, which helps the body deal with physical stress. So it was recommended to Sandra to have Nubia placed in a foster home, but she was instead allowed to stay with her biological mother, who then became sober. So it wouldn't be long before they were removed from their mother's care in 2003, and then they were placed with their father, Victor Bastillo, but they didn't stay with him long either. In 2004, he was charged with sexual battery of a child not in his care. So Victor and Nubia then were taken and placed into foster care and eventually ended up in the home of Jorge and Carmen Barahona in Miami. The couple had already adopted a boy with autism, so them adopting a child with a condition wasn't something that would turn them away from them. So Jorge owned his own pest control business and Carmen was a homemaker. And just months after being placed with them, a nurse noticed that Nubia was missing medical appointments because the Barahonas did not wish to accompany her to these. Despite the appointments being required to manage her ongoing condition, the nurse recommended that the Barahonas not be allowed to adopt any more children. So in 2005, Nubia reportedly told somebody that her father was molesting her. And it was unclear whether or not it was her birth father or her foster father, but DCF investigated and they determined that she had meant that it was her birth father, and the case was closed. Yeah. In 2006, the school staff then called DCF again to report a large bruise on her face, and they suspected it was child abuse. The Barahonas were then taken in order to bring her to an appointment with the Department of Health's Child Protection Team in Miami, and they didn't show up until a week later. By then, most of the bruising had disappeared, and the state doctors agreed with the assertion that the bruise was from a fall. So other complaints were filed in 2007. The school reported that Nubia was extremely thin. She was always hungry. She had a very unpleasant odor. And DCF investigated the claims, but they were met with the insistence from the Barahonas that her condition was not from hygiene problems or neglect, but it was from her medical problem. And all of the investigation was dropped. Legit, if these people actually get off their fucking ass and go there in person and go into said house, all of these it wouldn't be an issue ever. So the Barahonas began the adoption process for the twins in 2008, but they were met with resistance from so the twins, Victor and Nubia, had a guardian ad litem. His name is Paul Newman. They claimed that Newman was operating behind their backs in an attempt to interfere with their adoption process, which is good that he was doing that. I'm sorry, no. Anywho, so they claimed that they had a personality conflict with Newman and cited that he was the reason behind all the accusations of neglect. And to override him, they wrote letters appealing to people as high up as the then governor, Charlie Crist. And in these letters, they described the care they were providing for the twins as positively, stating that they were raising their children with love, as any mother and father should. Newman was then removed from being the guardians of the twins, without any explanation, and the adoption was finalized. So they were formally adopted in 2009, and in 2010, complaints similar to the ones in 2007 started again, but this time Nubia was losing her hair. So DCF again was involved, met with the same reasonings from the Barahonas that it was caused by her endocrine system and medication she was taking for it, and they just simply dropped it again. At 5 a.m. on Monday, February 14th, 2011, a Red Ranger noticed a red Toyota pickup on the shoulder of the northbound I-95 between Palm Beach Lakes Boulevard and 45th Street in West Palm Beach. When the truck was sitting there for about 2.5 hours. The road ranger then called the police. So West Palm Beach Fire Rescue responded, and they found Jorge Barahona on the ground with 10-year-old Victor in the cab of the truck. They were both conscious, but by the time they arrived. But Victor was convulsing with seizures. One of the firemen was overcome by such a strong smell in the truck, and decontamination had to start because they weren't sure what it was coming from the truck. So the bed of the truck was filled with plastic liners of chemicals and plastic containers of chemicals, and some of them were labeled. The truck was branded with Jorge's Pest Extermination Business, or CJ Pest Control, causing investigators to believe that these were pesticides in the back. One unlabeled container held some form of acid, and it caused firefighters to wonder why he would have such a harsh chemical. The state troopers were then sent to the address of CJ Pest Control, but they couldn't contact anyone. So it was further revealed that Victor was covered in acid, and there was so much of it in the car that it soaked into the carpets and seats, making the air in the truck poisonous. Victor and Jorge were taken to separate hospitals for their injuries. A hazmat team and the State of Environmental Protection arrived by the afternoon to decontaminate the area, and it's about 3:45 p.m. is when they sort through tubs of chemicals in the bed of the truck, and they find a black garbage bag. And it's at this time they find human remains in the black garbage bag. So the FBI then joins in the effort to decontaminate the site, and they bring the body to the county forensics investigators. At about 8:30 p.m. that Tuesday, the body was taken officially to be examined for an autopsy, and her identity was withheld from the public for 2 days after it was discovered. It then was revealed that it was Nubia Barahona, Victor's twin sister. Her body was so badly decomposed and was difficult to identify because she had been covered in so many different chemicals and the acid. So Victor was initially taken to St. Mary's Medical Center in West Palm Beach, but he was transferred to Jackson Memorial Hospital in Miami. He had suffered severe internal reactions to the inhalations of the toxic fumes and had chemical burns over a large portion of his body. Doctors also found previous injuries on his body, including a broken collarbone, broken arm, scars on his butt, his lower abdomen, rope marks on both wrists. Victor was released March 2nd of 2011, and he was placed in a therapeutic foster home. Jorge was arrested for child abuse against Victor and moved to Columbia Hospital and then to Palm Beach County Jail. And while he was in custody, he confessed to the police that he had been upset by the death of his daughter and had driven to Palm Beach County with a plan to commit suicide by setting himself on fire. He said that the shoulder of the I-95 was chosen so that he would be easily found. He then gave Victor a handful of sleeping pills, and then with the boy's head in his lap, he then poured gasoline all over his head. He then attempted to ignite a lighter, but he couldn't do it, as he didn't want to take Victor with him. So investigators would find the red gasoline container in the truck filled with acid. And when the police asked why he did not have any obvious burns, as Victor, Jorge said that some of the gas may have splashed the boy. So the police then concluded that Jorge's version of events is inconsistent and it doesn't match up to Victor's injuries. So autopsy results concluded that Nubia was beaten to death on February 11th. the the day DCF officially came like into question with this investigation, um, and they were asked about a phone call that was made on February 11th to their abuse hotline, and reportedly it was Jorge allegedly reportedly beating and punching Nubia, and Nubia screamed and cried until she was dead. Carmen Barahona told investigators when she was questioned that she and her husband had been separated for about 6 months, when in fact they had never been apart, so she was just straight up lying. The couple's other children were taken from the home and placed with Carmen's parents and then placed in foster care. So, February 10th, 2011, 4 days before the truck was found, a therapist of Carmen's granddaughter, Alessandra, placed a call to child welfare officials. She alleged to her therapist that when she was visiting her grandmother's house, the twins Nubia and Victor were bound by their hands and feet and standing for hours in the bathtub. Their hands were unbound only when it was time to eat, and she claimed she also was not permitted to speak to them when she used the bathroom. The therapist then told the operator how Alessandra felt, and she felt threatened by her grandmother and to keep quiet. Carmen allegedly said that Alessandra couldn't tell people about how the twins were treated because it was a family secret. The 11-year-old autistic son, Jorge, also tried to tell a DCF investigator when they were visiting the home shortly prior to Nubia's death about the secret, but the investigator claimed that Carmen was quick to dismiss anything he said because he was low functioning and told him to watch TV in the other room. After they discovered Nubia's body, Alessandra was removed from the care of her own mother, Jennifer Perez, and she was placed with her father, Giovanni Perez. In addition, the court ordered that neither of the girl's mother or any family member have any contact with Alessandra. DCF officially stated that Alessandra no longer should be with her mother because the mother, Jennifer Perez, was not only psychologically abusing her child by exposing her to the torture of the twins, but also by threatening the child over to keep quiet and encourage her to be complicit and compliant with the deception, including a calculated effort by said mother, Jennifer, from not disclosing an abuse to DCF officials. DCF has been highly criticized due to this case because they literally did nothing. I feel that DCF is a giant issue when it comes to every state in the United States. New Hampshire, I mean, you've seen everything with Harmony Montgomery, where the state never tried to intervene. I'm sorry. There needs to be home visits, unscheduled home visits. You show up at the house. You make sure that they're okay. You don't hide behind your desk or your paperwork until something happens to these children. You need to make sure that they're okay. And the same thing with these people in Florida. You should have gone out and been with them, told Carmen and told Jorge to stay out of the room so you can talk to said child. You're there to make sure they're okay, not to be quickly dismissed by said parent that is with them. February 21st, 2020, Carmen Barahona pled guilty to first-degree murder and multiple counts of aggravated child abuse. She took a plea deal. Part of this plea deal was to testify against Jorge. Her sentence has been deferred until her cooperation with prosecutors against Jorge is complete. If she doesn't cooperate, she can face a death penalty. In February 26th of 2020, Jorge requested that his trial date to be delayed due to her plea deal. So March 1st, 2021, Jorge was attacked in a pretrial detention center when he slept. He suffered from multiple bruises on his face and nosebleed and a small cut on his nose. He was attacked by five other inmates because of the nature of his impending charges. So obviously it's been quite amount of time between when said murder happened and them actually going to trial. A lot kind of came out when it came to these. So they were arrested in 2015, and Jorge tried to kill himself twice after all of the after everything kind of came out, after he was charged, Carmen filed for divorce from him, and they've been held. Basically, the entirety, like between when this case was finally getting the justice it deserves and now, is due to the fact that there's a lot of evidence that has to be gone through, and a lot of things that are in the way that need to be put where they need to be. That, and with Jorge trying to kill himself, they need to focus on that. The plea deal that Carmen has. Yeah. So all together, they have about 18 charges against them. There's one for first-degree murder, 8 counts of child abuse resulting in great bodily harm, 1 count of child neglect resulting in great harm, 6 counts of neglect with no great harm, 1 count of child neglect, no bodily harm, 1 count of mutilating a dead body, and they face the death penalty if convicted. Good. They both should die. That's what I feel, not you guys. So they weren't just charged with the death of Nubia. Jorge was charged with attempted murder of Victor as well. So jury selection started in 2016, and the case was set to begin in 2015, but attorneys requested more time. So another family member of the Barahonas came forward and described abuse as a persistent pattern of psychological and physical abuse. She was 6 years old when the twins arrived at the Barahonas' house, and she regularly visited the house, witnessed the torture of the twins, and she even stated that the twins would be stripped down naked and forced to walk around the living room. Jorge forced everybody to watch them, and another time during one of her visits, Jorge tried to drown Victor in the swimming pool, and at another time, Jorge and Carmen wrapped a rope around Victor's neck, choking him until he fainted. She also stated that the twins were only given bread and milk. That was the only sustenance they had. But that, my friends, is the case of Nubia Barahona. It's a very tragic case, because if DCF actually did what they were supposed to and actually investigated these claims, Nubia would still be alive. We wouldn't have another child dead by the hands of a person that basically treated them like a cash cow. You know what I mean? So, hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys in another one.